WADR.
West Africa Democracy Radio. WADR.
WADR. Promoting dialogue.
Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. This is NEWSLINK. Here are the top stories. ECOWAS warns against premature declarations amidst election results anticipation in Liberia. Liberia's opposition candidate Boakai again takes the lead as the pronouncement of results by the Election Commission comes to an end. A negotiation dialogue between the ruling SLPP and opposition APC begins in Freetown to resolve Sierra Leone's political standoff, and MINUSMA condemns an attack on its convoy as it evacuates a base in Tessalit.
All parties, including the government, including the signatories, our movements have an obligation to ensure the secure, safe, and unimpeded withdrawal of the mission's personnel and equipment.
Stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Tawfiq Abdul Nasser with NEWSLINK.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in Liberia, Ghana, and the Gambia. Our top story takes us to Liberia, where the pronouncement of results by the National Elections Commission is coming to an end. As of Monday evening, about 92.82% of the total votes cast on October 10 were declared, placing opposition leader Joseph Boakai in a slight lead ahead of incumbent George Weah. Weah, seeking re-election, is contesting the top job alongside 19 other candidates. It should be noted that more than 2 million registered voters went to the poll to elect their representatives last Tuesday. WADR's Darlington Popper in Monrovia reports.
With almost 100% of the vote being tallied so far, one can only say that the election is between incumbent George Weah and his mere rival Joseph Boakai.
5,467 polling places of a total of 5,890 polling places, constituting 92.82%. Candidates: Boakai Joseph N. UP, votes obtained 748,463, constituting 43.70%. Weah George Manen CDC, votes obtained 747,578, constituting 43.65%.
With the latest results announced by the chairperson of the commission, David Etta Brown Lasana, political pundits believe a second round of voting is imminent, as none of the two main candidates can meet the constitutional threshold of 50% plus one vote to win the first ballot. On the streets of Monrovia, these Liberians express their confidence in the ability of the commission to announce a credible results.
I'm seeing some transparency, especially when it comes to the NEC boss making the announcement. There are some areas that she may have got votes that maybe Baka may have dominated that area.
And whoever that they choose, that they voted for, their rights should be respected. In as much we are talking about peace.
Despite the Electoral Commission's warning, supporters of the two major opposing camps insist they have won the post on the first ballot. For NEWSLINK on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Popper in Monrovia.
Meanwhile, ECOWAS is calling for restraint among Liberians as they anticipate the formal announcement of election results by the Election Commission. A press release from the Commission noted efforts from some Liberian parties to prematurely claim victory or exert unwarranted pressure on the National Elections Commission. Francis Boniface completes the story.
The regional body in the press statement reminded the political parties and their leaders of the commitments they made under the revised Farmington River Declaration concerning the peaceful conduct of the electoral process. This declaration was jointly endorsed by the ECOWAS Commission and the United Nations. The statement underscored the invaluable contributions of the citizens of West Africa to Liberia's conflict resolution and peace-building endeavors, acknowledging the sacrifices made, including the loss of lives of ECOWAS community citizens. The Commission also highlighted the crucial roles played by the United Nations and international partners in post-conflict Liberia, particularly in the ongoing electoral process. In light of these considerations, the Commission has called upon all stakeholders in Liberia to adhere to the democratic principles crucial for fostering a peaceful and credible electoral process. As outlined in the Liberian Constitution, relevant laws, and ECOWAS legal instruments, notably the Supplementary Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance. Concluding its statement, ECOWAS, along with the African Union and the international community, emphasized that all stakeholders, including political leaders, would be held accountable for any actions that could potentially incite violence or instability in the country.
Francis Boniface with that report. In Freetown, a mediation dialogue commenced yesterday, Monday, between the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party (SLPP) and the opposition All People's Congress (APC). The talks aim to break the political stalemate in the country, particularly in the aftermath of the June 24th elections, after elected officials from the APC camp chose to boycott their seats. Overseeing the mediation are representatives from the Commonwealth, the African Union, and the Economic Community of West African States. As Abdullahi Hassan reports, the opposition continuously claims that the election was characterized by irregularities.
Angered by the perceived rigging of the 2023 elections, members of parliament, mayors and councillors elected under the opposition APC platform had boycotted their seats in condemnation of the act. The results of the elections announced by the chairman of the Sierra Leone Elections Commission, Mohamed Kone, produced a governance impasse that prompted the intervention of the Commonwealth, the AU and ECOWAS. The mediation now seeks to reconcile the two parties and have the elected officials work together. Recall the US, Britain, France, Netherlands, and international elections observers, including the European Union, EU, cited inconsistencies in the results released by the Elections Commission. Shortly after, the United States suspended the Millennium Challenge Corporation's $400 million grant won by the government and imposed a travel ban on several individuals. Last week, the EU released its final report on the elections, which provided statistical data and facts to conclude that no presidential candidate reached the threshold of 55% to avoid a runoff. It remains to be seen what this dialogue will achieve, according to political observers in Freetown, with relations between the SLPP and APC seriously polarized and supporters of both parties holding firm to their respective positions.
Abdullahi Hassan filed that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. NewsLink continues.
And now, the United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali has reported a heavy attack on its convoy in the northern region as it evacuates a camp in Tissalit. There is no immediate confirmation of casualty, but the UN says it strongly condemns the attack. The incident occurred on Monday, just a day after the organization stated the potential of a worsening security situation in the region. Northern Mali has recently witnessed surging attacks by former rebels against military formations for territorial control. Hundreds have been killed and twice as many injured. But the UN fears the impact of these attacks on its withdrawal as December 31 draws nearer. Stefan Dujarric is a spokesperson for the UN Secretary General.
The peacekeeping mission in Mali, MINUSMA, announced that it started withdrawing troops from northern camps in the Kidal region, starting with bases in Tessalit and Agelok. This will be followed by the Kidal camp itself. The mission is doing everything it can to complete this process as soon as possible in the midst of a rapidly deteriorating security situation, and also in light of the increased risks to the lives of hundreds of peacekeepers. This is becoming increasingly difficult. Today, personnel from the mission were forced to seek shelter in bunkers due to an exchange of fire in Tessalit. All parties, including the government, including the signatories, armed movements, have an obligation to ensure the secure, safe, and unimpeded withdrawal of the mission's personnel and equipment. And as you will have seen over the weekend, we issued a note saying that the heightened tensions in the northern part of Mali are increasing the likelihood that the mission will be forced to depart without being able to repatriate equipment belonging to troop-contributing countries and the UN. In light of this, the mission has intensified engagement with the Malian authorities to convey its concerns and underscore their responsibility as host nation for the safety and security of peacekeepers. The UN Secretariat is also engaging in intense consultations with members of the Security Council and troop-contributing countries to seek their support for the safety of peacekeepers.
Spokesperson for the UN Secretary General Stefan Dujarric speaking there. Lomé, the Togolese capital, is scheduled to host the 7th symposium of the chiefs of naval staff of the countries bordering the Gulf of Guinea. The two-day forum, organized by the Ministry of the Armed Forces of Togo, opens tomorrow, Wednesday, October 18, 2023. The conference is themed States and Partners of the Gulf of Guinea. Let's protect our maritime spaces for the development of the blue economy. Imoredet completes the story.
The objective of this symposium is to strengthen cooperation and coordination between countries in the region to face common maritime challenges. The 10 participating states and 11 partner countries will work on identifying challenges and opportunities related to improving maritime security and safety systems in the Gulf of Guinea. Actions and priorities will be defined to strengthen regional and international cooperation involving both state and non-state actors. According to the Togolese Ministry of the Armed Forces, the Lomé Conference aims to establish a consultation framework to generate a common political will to make the Gulf of Guinea an area of peace, stability, and sustainable development. The meeting is backed by the French Army with the support of the European Union. The overall goal is for the region to benefit the populations and meet national and regional interests. Preceding this symposium, the Togolese capital also hosted the third meeting of the Subcommittee of Chiefs of Naval Staff of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, from Sunday, October 15 to Monday, October 16, 2023.
Imoredet reporting there. The government of Nigeria has secured a $1.5 billion concessional loan for the World Bank for budget support. The Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, revealed this while briefing State House correspondents at the end of the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Bola Tinubu. From Abuja, WADL's Usman Umar reports.
Edu also disclosed that an $80 million financing from the African Development Bank was also approved by the Council. This is to finance a project in Ekiti in the southwest called Project EKZ, basically to support young people and towards advancement of technology in the country.
Nigeria has been able to make the kind of macroeconomic moves, has been able to take the tough decisions to restore balance, and is on the basis of that the World Bank is willing to consider and to process on our behalf $1.5 billion of concessional financing.
On his part, the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Atiku Bagudu, said the executive is in talks with the legislature on consideration of the medium-term expenditure framework 2024 to 2026 and also the projected presentation of the 2024 budget of 20.01 trillion naira to the National Assembly.
Expenditure is estimated at 26.01 trillion naira for the 2024 budget, which includes statutory transfers.
Also, The Ministers of Labour and Employment and Industry, Trade and Investment said they presented memos on various interventions, including the approval for implementation of the federal government's agreement with the organized labour. The Finance Minister also reiterated that President Tinubu will not breach statutory limits in obtaining budget support facilities from the Central Bank of Nigeria through Ways and Means Advance. For NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
You are listening to NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar. Here is a reminder of our top stories. ECOWAS warns against premature declarations amidst election results anticipation in Liberia. Liberia's opposition candidate Boakai again takes the lead as the pronouncement of results by the Election Commission comes to an end. MINUSMA condemns an attack on its convoy as it evacuates a base in Tessalit, and a negotiation dialogue between the ruling SLPP and the opposition APC begins in Freetown to resolve Sierra Leone's political standoff. Still ahead is the press review, the guest interview, and sports update. Stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
In Ghana, some 16 members of the ruling New Patriotic Party, NPP, were on Monday charged with conspiracy to commit crime and rioting. The young men on October 7, 2023, stormed the premises of a private media, UTV, and obstructed a prime-time show called United Showbiz. The Accra Magistrate Court, in its ruling, asked each one of the convicts to pay an amount of 2,400 Ghana cedi or $240 as a fine. James Ejapon has more details.
The incident, which occurred on October 7, 2023, was during a live broadcast of a popular program on the network United Showbiz. These convicts, who invaded the premises and caused mayhem, had granted that panelists on the show were unfairly criticizing the ruling National Patriotic Party, NPP, and as a result were shifting the focus of the show to politics. Also adding to the agitation was when the panelists called A+, tore apart on air a letter from the NPP to the management of UTV. This invasion received wild criticisms from the public, including the National Media Commission and the Ghana Journalists Association GJA, who labeled the act as both barbaric and medieval. Meanwhile, the National Youth Organizer for the ruling NPP, Salam Mustafa, had in an address to the media confirmed that indeed all the young men who invaded the UTV premises were known members of the party. Their prosecution on Monday followed days of thorough investigation by the police.
James Ejapon filed that report.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
Darlington Pauper in Monrovia joins us now with the major headlines from the Liberian dailies.
For today's edition of Press Review, we have with us the New Democrat newspaper, the Oracle newspaper, and the Front Page Africa newspaper. So those are the three newspapers we will be going through for today's edition of Press Review. We will begin a review process with the Front Page Africa newspaper. Runoff election imminent. We see the smiling photographs of President George Weah and his main rival, Ambassador Joseph Yuma Boakai, on the front page of the Front Page Africa newspaper with scores of Liberian voters. We will take a gist of this story on the front page of the Front Page Africa newspaper. As the National Elections Commission NEC draws closer to announcing the final results of the presidential election, it appears interestingly impossible that either President George Weah or former Vice President Joseph Yuma Boakai will secure the constitutionally mandated 50% plus one vote needed to be declared the winner. We will leave it right there. Let's stay on the front page of the Front Page Africa newspaper. Defeat knocking Chimbasi's door. We see the photograph of Buffer Chimbas here. 26-year-old held for murder. Who's in and who's out? On the back page is all about sports. From the Front Page Africa newspaper, we go now to the Oracle News Daily. Down to the wire, how to reach 50% plus one vote. We see the photographs of George Weah and Joseph Human Boakai. Cummins rejects ridiculous results. We will leave it right there on the back page of the Oracle newspaper. Observers, Liberia had a pretty clean election. The Democrat newspaper is now our last stop. Losers, CDC's giant fainting. Slow and Chambers out, great to follow. These are strong lawmakers of the governing coalition for democratic change. Election Coordinating Committee ECC condemns CDC brutality. On the back page of the Democrat newspaper, Liberia First Movement political leader calls for peace and calm. Gonglo trashes associating with Weah. The patriotic need to checkmate the 2023 referee. On that note, that's how we love to conclude today's edition of Press Review. Thank you so much for following, and bye-bye.
That was Darlington Popper with the Press Review.
Politics,
analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview this afternoon takes us to Sierra Leone, where a mediation dialogue began yesterday, aiming to resolve the political stalemate between the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party, SLPP, and the opposition All People's Congress, APC. This comes in the wake of the June 24 elections, which saw elected officials from the APC boycotting their seats. Facilitating the mediation process are representatives from the Commonwealth, the African Union, and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, as discussions on the potential compromises necessary for both parties to reach a truce unfold. Sierra Leonean election observer Ben Skumba-Lebi offers his perspective.
So we deal with the legitimate opinion of such a credible institution, which is the European Union. But then we are also mindful of legal context of what we are talking about. So before the announcement of the election, it was a popular opinion in Sierra Leone that it will be difficult for any one candidate to reach the 55% threshold in the first round to be declared a winner. That was the popular opinion, and that was what we expected. So when the elections were conducted, the civil society network body for observation, National Elections Watch, which did a parallel salad process, also came out with a figure to support that opinion that President Madabio did not attain the 55%. So this is not new information on the table. What has been the betrayal? It has been the public institution, the credible institution that was trusted with the responsibility to conduct the election. That's the National Election Commission of Sierra Leone. They are the institution responsible to have done the right thing. So now that it has happened this week, the elections were certified and President Bio sworn in. What we have advised the opposition from a credible point of view is that they can continue to agitate for a re-election, but dialogue was the best. So even when the opposition had refused to participate in governance, there was chaos, fight, and killings. It was not necessary. But what has happened now that after the publication of the report, there has been room for dialogue and several discussions are happening now. This is what we are looking up to. We don't know what may emerge in the next couple of days or weeks, but yeah, we have read the reports and they are of substance.
So what are some of the clear irregularities that characterize these elections in your view? And has there been any statement yet from the Electoral Commission in response to the claims?
No. So the Electoral Commission is such a discredited institution currently in Sierra Leone, and the leader is nowhere to be found in public domain. Of course, the technical staff are still working. So the leader is always a political appointed person, and there are technical staff who are continuing the work of the election, because several elections are also conducted after that. These are minor constituency elections, area chieftaincy elections. These are all conducted by the body. So it's an embarrassing situation for them, for such a credible international institution like the EU to discredit a data that was certified by the NEC boss, by the Electoral Commission boss, and the civil society also discrediting that. It's so embarrassing situation.
So finally, following this mediation arranged by the representatives from the Commonwealth and regional bodies like the AU and ECOWAS, what clear compromise do you suggest should be placed on the table for warring parties to arrive at a truce?
We have to make sure it does not happen again. How system strengthening, there should be, from now to the next couple of months or years, there should be a law that can prevent anybody from acting this way so that we cannot have a chaos in the country. If the data is out, we look at the data and we are satisfied that this did not happen, the president did not reach, then we demand for re-election. But demanding for re-election now is only an opinion that I can express. And it's very consistent with some of the opposition members who are saying they want a re-election, which is the fair demand of them because they don't trust the Electoral Commission. That is fair on their part.
Ben Skombalebi is a civil society activist and election observer from Sierra Leone. Up next is the sports update with Sankule Janko.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, in collaboration with the local organizing committee, will conduct a 5-day inspection mission in a number of cities that will host the Africa Cup of Nations next year. The delegation is expected to visit 4 cities, San Pedro, Korhogo, Bouaké and Yamoussoukro. The visit will provide the delegation first-hand information on the state of preparedness of the 4 cities. The visit will focus on the readiness of the sporting infrastructure, stadiums, training sites, accommodation, among others, ahead of the tournament. The Africa Cup of Nations tournament will be held from 13 January to 11 February 2024 in the cities of Abidjan, San Pedro, Korhogo, Bouaké and Yamoussoukro. Elsewhere, reigning African champions Senegal continue their impressive form after a hard-fought 1-0 win against Cameroon in an international friendly on Monday night in France. The Teranga Lions won the match courtesy of star player Sadio Mane's 35th minute penalty. Cameroon had a much improved second half but could not penetrate the Senegalese defense. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We have come to the end of this edition of NewsLink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Christian Mukidi and Mustafa Sek for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at WADR News on Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Tawfiq Abdul Nasir. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to NewsLink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0, and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County. For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.